Bush was coming out in early January, and in 1992. And so I thought, geez, here's an opportunity. So I went out and saw the Prime Minister, who was then Bob Hawke. I said, Bob, I want to meet the President. He comes, Blight, we're actually, he's only here for a day or two, so we're not opening it up to the public. That's only government people. I said, Bob, this is me and the farmers. We've got a big argument with these guys, you know. Mm-hmm. Their export enhancement program. Their export enhancement program costs us $40 a tonne on every tonne of grain that we produce.
That much?
Yep. I said, that's got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't keep living like this. And, the boys might like me just giving you access. Anyway, Bob Hawke was one of the best Prime Ministers I've ever worked with. He was very acceptable to the little man's argument, mm-hmm. right? And I said to him, nah, Bob, I want you to really think about this. Anyway, he rings me up one day, he said, I got your Guernsey. He said, only for half an hour, but I got your Guernsey. I said, right, well, I got some other news for you. I would like to hold a rally while Bush is here. He said, oh, Jesus. He said, God, you hold a rally, what are they going to do? I said, they're just going to march. They'll behave themselves, they know how to do this thing. I got to round them all up yet, but I'm toying with the idea of having one. Oh, geez, he said, well, you better let me know what you're going to do, but, I'm not that keen about it, but I suppose you can have a rally. It's your democratic right to do it. And, okay. Well, of course, just before Bush turns up, Keating rolls in.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a new Prime Minister. So we get a phone call from the new Prime Minister. Graham, can you come up and have a chat to me? I said, okay. So I go up. And he sit down. He said, well, the President, I want to talk about the President's visit. And I said, yeah, okay. Now, he said, you have a meeting with him. That's all been agreed to. And so he said, I don't want to change that. I said, oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. But he said, you're planning this rally. I said, yes, we are. He said, well, I don't like the idea of that. And I said, why not? He said, oh, well, rallies can get out of control. They could start offending the President and embarrass me and the country and charge the Parliament out. They could do anything. I said, Prime Minister, these are rural people. These are people with style and dignity and responsibility. It's not some union rabble that you're used to. By this time, my CEO's got his steps now. Going, God, here I am talking to the new Prime Minister like this. I said, these people know how to behave themselves. It'll be perfectly orderly. And he said, well, I could stop you. And I thought, all right. And I just looked at him and I said, Prime Minister, this is my ding on my patch, and that would not be a good idea. Well, by this time, my CEO, Rick Farley, was ready to walk out of the room. Anyway, he looked at me for a while and there was a stunned silence, and he thought about it. He said, all right, you can have your meeting and you can have your rally, but you make sure there's no trouble. I said, there won't be any trouble. So, we had the rally, we had 3,000 to 4,000 farmers there. It was spectacular. We had horses out the front with all the state flags. Mm-hmm. One horse in front of that with the Australian flag, and me and my two vice presidents leading the march. We marched up and out in the lawns in front of Parliament House, and we had a couple of Western singers there and the whole bit going on, speeches and the whole bit. And then we went in and met George. Well, the night before, there was a dinner at Government House, and 25 Americans, 25 Australians. And so we get up there, and when Bush arrived, Bill Hayden, who was the Governor-General, said, hey, Graham, come over here, I'll introduce you to the President. So came over and met the President. Well, he and I started talking. But a significant thing had happened that day. When I got the first program, I had 30 minutes. When I got the revamped program that day, George Bush turned up, I had 29 minutes. I'd lost a minute. Now, most people say, oh, well, it's a minute. I've always had this thing where when I've met people in positions like that I wanted them to remember me. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want them to remember the farmers of Australia. I wanted them to remember me because I'm telling the story. And them remembering me is significant in how we progress these things. So I said to him, Mr. President, you're meeting me tomorrow, he says. And I said, yes, Mr. President, I am, and I look forward to that. But I said, we got a problem with it. And he said, oh, really? Have you? What's the problem? I said, I've lost a minute. He said, a minute. I said, yes, I had 30 minutes. Now I'm back to 29 minutes. Now I've got a lot to say to you, and I want that minute back. Oh, he said. So he gets this bloke to come over. He said, I'm meeting Graham tomorrow. Yes, Mr. President. He said, he's lost a minute. A minute, Mr. President? He said, yes, he's lost a minute. He had 30 minutes, now he's on 29 minutes, and he wants it back. Oh, he said, can we fix that? And the fellow said, well, I'll have a look at it. He said, yeah, well, go and fix it. So he said, you'll get your minute, right? Mm-hmm. Well, from then on, we were mates. And we talked and talked and talked and talked. And when they're going for dinner, they ring a little bell, and you get your partner, who's someone else's partner, by the way. So it's the first wife swapping exercise I've ever been to. And you get a little card when you come in, and you open a little envelope like that, and there's his name. Your partner for dinner is Mrs. Jones. Well, you might know her and you might not, but you've got to go and find Mrs. Jones, and you and Mrs. Jones walking to dinner together. And your partner's off walking to dinner with somebody else. It's a very novel way of mixing it up. But anyway, he was chatting away, and everyone's waiting for him to stop talking to me. So they had to send out a search party to sort of, we were tucked away in the corner there, and Dallas Hayden, the Governor General's wife, standing there waiting for it. She's looking at me, and I said, Mr. President, you've got to go to dinner. Geez, Graham, he said, oh yeah, okay. Look, come back here and we'll continue this after dinner. And I went, oh, okay, right. So we go in, have dinner, come back out. We start talking. Got to the stage where Bill Hayden came over and said, Graham, there are some other people here who would like to meet the President. So we met the next day, and the meeting lasted a long way over 30 minutes. And we talked about things that we really put it to him. I said, I'm going to ask you some pretty direct questions tomorrow, Mr. President. We haven't got very long. I'll try not to be rude, but I've got to be pretty blunt. He said, that's okay, Graham, that suits me. Mm-hmm. My first question to him was, Mr. President, are you going to stop your export enhancement program? He said, no. I said, well, if you're not going to stop it, we should at least be able to expect that you should run it within your own rules. Oh, what do you mean by that? I said, well, you break the rules. And he turned to his advisors. He said, do we break our rules? No, Mr. President. I said, well, that's not right. You're getting the wrong information, Mr. President. And I gave him an example of where they'd broken the rules on rice going into Turkey. He said, can you document this? I said, yes, I can. Well, Graham, he said, I'll give you my word that that's going to stop right now. Mm-hmm. Right now. And I said, well, the other issue, Mr. President, is that you go into a market where we might be going into, and you go in with the export enhancement program, and as part of your policy, and you drop the price by $60 a tonne. No warning to anybody, and that's the way you run it, but you drop it by $60 a tonne. And you get us. He said, Graham, the export enhancement program is not targeting you. And I said, well, Mr. President, with all due respect, you're a lousy shot because you get us every time. Anyway, we agreed. He offered. Well, he said, what we'll do is I'll get my people to talk to your people 6 weeks or so, or 8 weeks or so, before we go into a country, so you can go in and make your sale before we come in and drop the price for the export enhancement program. How's that? I said, that's fantastic. Well, of course, there's a problem with that for the President, because he's giving away American secrets, mm-hmm. and technically that's impeachment.
Yeah.
Well, General Snowsall, his chief advisor, he was white, he was like that. And the president said, "This right, Graham, we'll do it. I'll fix this." And everyone's going, Jesus. Anyway, but he did it. Mm-hmm. He did it. But I had to square off with the press because Michelle Grattan smelled a rat. Because when we'd finished, he gave his press release, statement. He gave his statement to the press, and I gave mine. They were slightly different, but it wasn't around that. It was around something else. And anyway, the president wasn't going to go out and meet the press again because of this issue. Uh-huh. And so the ambassador rang me up and said, "Graham, we've got to sort this thing out with the press. But we can't sort it out because you can't talk about it publicly because the president could be impeached." Mm. Which is pretty serious stuff. So I said, "So what you're telling me is I've got to go and get your president off the hook." And he said, "Yes." Well, I said, "I told you we should have agreed on what the statement was, but you blokes wouldn't do it." But anyway. So he said, "Righto." I said, "Well, I'll go and do it." But I said, "Mate, this is going to cost you." And he said, "Oh, geez." Anyway, I went out and met the press and I sort of sorted it all out. But it was a fantastic. He walked out the door and he said to Keating, he said, "Sorry, I know I've upset the time schedule," but he said, "That was the best meeting that I've ever had on agriculture in my life." He said, "You're very lucky to have those blokes." Now, you think, all right, well, talk's cheap. What he did, I found out later on. We're in the house waiting for him to address the Joint Houses of Parliament. I'm sitting there, the bloke comes and sits next to me. He said, "You're Graham Blight." I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I wanted to meet you." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Really? What would you want to meet me for?" He said, "I wanted to let you know that you just buggered up my trip to Australia." And I said, "Mate, I haven't met you before. I don't even... What do you do?" He said, I'm the president's speechwriter." And he said, all the speeches were all prepared before we left America, all laid out for him, everything's done. I was going to go out to Uluru and have a 36-hour trip out there or whatever he's going to do. And I said, "Oh, well, what's happened?" He said, "Since the president's met you, he's told me to alter every speech he's making." Now that is significant. Mm-hmm. "Oh, well," I said, "I'm flattered." He said, "Well, I just wanted to let you know you mucked up my trip." I said, "Well, you'll just have to come back again." But so that event was significant, and it really, at the end of the trip visit, and we were walking out of the Great Hall after the last dinner, and Keating's protocol ran over to me. He said, "Mr. Blight," he said, "excuse me," he said, "a message from the Prime Minister." And I said, "Oh yes, what's he want now?" And he said, "Doesn't want anything. He just wanted to give you a message, and the message is you made the visit." Now that is
impressive.
And so what came out of that was, as I said in the press the next day, they said, "Well, what did you get out of that?" And I said, "Well, there's lots of things we talked about. Some of them we can talk about and some of them we can't. But I said the important thing for us as farmers is that we went through that exercise and we were no longer seen as whingers. We came out of that with dignity." Mm-hmm. And that was another, that was significant. So that meeting, although it was fantastic and I loved every minute of it and the whole thing, but in a strategic sense of setting us up in the community and in the political sense in the Parliament, we were, numero. We were number one. And I was very proud of that. Very proud of that. It was good. When I went to Washington, he said to me, he said, "Graham, when you come to Washington," he said, "I believe you come to Washington every year." I said, "Yes." He said, "You come to Washington," he said, "you go and see the people you want to see," and he said, "If you can't see them," he said, "you ring me at the White House," and he said, "and I'll fix it." And I said, "Mr. President, you don't seriously think an old cocky like me from Australia is going to come over there and be upset because I can't see anybody and ring you. He said, I mean it. He said, I'm serious. He said, I have great respect for you and what you're trying to do for agriculture. And he said, you will see the people you want to see.
And did you?
Well, no, I didn't ring him, but what he did, he must have gone back there and spread the word about Graham Blight turns up, you see him.
Mm-hmm.
And so you send over a list to the embassy in Washington and you give them all the names of the people you want to see. And they ring him up and see if they can get an appointment. So I set these names up and I upgraded them all, to what we normally send over. And the bloke related the story to me. The two guys in the embassy got this stuff and they said, who does Blighty think he is, They're not going to see Blight, he's just a bloody old farmer. Anyway, they rang up the department of the Under Secretary of State. And rang the girl and she answered. They said, I'm from the Australian Embassy, the President of the National Farmers Federation, Graham Blight's coming to visit and he'd like to meet the Under Secretary. And she said, who? And the bloke goes, there you go, so, Graham Blight. And she goes, oh, hang on a bit. Next thing the Under Secretary's on the phone. He said, when's Blighty coming? Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, he's such and such. Roll him in. And listen, if you got in trouble getting in there anywhere, he said, you give me a ring. So all these doors open. I took the ambassador to one meeting. He'd been trying to get in to meet this bloke for a couple of months. He said, can I come with you? It was unbelievable. The access was just unbelievable.